Hello, everyone. Welcome to How Virtual Reality Can Improve Student Outcomes Through Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Training. My name is Nina Sclafani. I am the Senior Events Coordinator from Tech, and I'm so happy you've all decided to join us today. If you're in the New York area, I know we're having a really beautiful day. So if you have decided to come to this session, extra thank yous to you for your sacrifice of the sunshine. We're going to get started in a few minutes. I just want to leave some time for people to come into the room. In the meantime, you can grab a coffee, settle in, get comfortable. We have a great presentation for you today. I'm so excited for you to see it. We have Wendy and Maggie from Shift. They're going to be leading us through the next 45 minutes. For those of you who haven't attended one of our virtual summits before, just so you know, following this, you are going to receive an email that includes a video of this presentation, as well as the presentation slide deck and any additional resources Wendy or Maggie think that you may need. So you will receive that within the next 24 hours. If you are looking for proof of attendance, there is also a line of copy in the email that says, if you have received this email, you have attended the session. So if you need to show your administrators that, by all means, you can use that email to do so. Like I said, we're going to get started in a few more seconds, just waiting for more people to come into the room. But welcome to How Virtual Reality Can Improve Student Outcomes Through Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Training. All right, let's get started. As I mentioned, my name is Nina Sclafani. I'm the Senior Events Coordinator for Tech. If you're new to Zoom, take your mouse and scroll over your screen real quick. You'll see there's a bar at the bottom, and you will see a Q&A box and a chat box. If you click into each of those, they will pop out. Use the chat box to let us know where you're from and what you teach, and make comments throughout the presentation if you think something is really amazing. If you have a question that you'd like to ask, use the Q&A box instead of the chat box so that we know we don't miss it. Maggie and Wendy are going to be looking at the chat box and the Q&A box throughout. However, we might save those questions until the end, so don't worry if your question isn't answered right away. With that, I'd like to pass the baton over to Wendy and Maggie. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here. All right, and yes, thank you guys all for joining us. This is my first experience with presenting to no one I can see. So I told Maggie, just keep smiling and I'll know someone's there listening. So thank you for coming on this day, and welcome to our presentation. This presentation, in case you're wondering where you are, we're talking about virtual reality and the use of that technology to help recognize and mitigate the effects of implicit bias in schools. Shift this is our company. We are entrepreneurs. It's women founded, and we use virtual reality as one of many tools to help improve outcomes for learners. And we're a tech company located out in Bend, Oregon, so a long way away from any of you who are over in New York. I'm Wendy Morgan, and I'm a lifelong educator. I've been in the K-12 classroom and in higher ed before I went on this wild adventure to actually start a company and help bring this technology out to a variety of other people. And I'll be doing most of the talking today. And then my business partner is Maggie.
Hi, I'm Maggie Hubbell, and I'm pretty sure my dog is going to start barking every time I go off of mute, but hey, we're all in this together, so please forgive me. So I am a serial entrepreneur, and have been working, Wendy and I have been working together for a while now, and my experience is in tech and a software training company and training companies for adult learners.
And Maggie's going to be the one monitoring the chat and the answering questions, and also interrupting me if I forget to say something important. So the foundation of what we do, we really have a philosophy behind our training, behind this work that we're doing to help mitigate implicit bias. And it takes courage, and it is a journey. And we feel like if you want to make change, you have to be the change. And so this journey is very personal. And we take it very seriously that all of our participants don't feel any judgment, no guilt. There's no such thing as failure. We're just on a journey to learn. This is learning about implicit bias, about ourselves, and about how we interact with the people around us. So to get us started, I'm going to actually do a little visualization exercise with you guys. So I'm going to just tell a little kind of story. And every time I introduce a person or a character, I want you to jot down the first thing that pops into your head about the demographics of this particular person. So remember, this is a time for you to use your imagination. So think big, whatever you want to imagine. But let's imagine for a minute we're in an airport, getting ready to get on a plane and go to a conference. Now, I know we don't, any of us do that anymore. You know, no conferences, no airplanes. But bear with me here because we'll just make this slightly fictional. So you get on the plane and you walk up and the pilot is there and greets you and says, welcome aboard. And then you walk down and you take your seat. I'm going to imagine myself in first class. You guys go ahead and do that too. So we're sitting there and we take off and get to cruising altitude and the flight attendant comes by with your second drink, because I think in first class you get one before you take off too. So that flight attendant hands you your drink. Now let's imagine we have landed in our destination city, any city in the world you want. Remember to be jotting down these facts. So you're at a wonderful restaurant having a delightful dinner, and behind you there's a couple celebrating their 5th wedding anniversary. And you turn and smile at the couple and tell them congratulations. Now it's the next day. You're at your conference. It's the morning, the keynote speaker is coming up, and this keynote speaker is the founder and CEO of a new ed tech company that has customers all around the world. So you have your coffee, you take your seat, and this CEO steps out onto the stage and begins the keynote address. Now I want you to stop and look back at the things that you jotted down. And what typically happens here is that we make some assumptions based on our cultural templates. We're going to oftentimes, frequently I've seen, we assume that the pilot was a man, the flight attendant was a woman, the couple were a man and a woman, and the CEO was a man. But what if that was not the case? What if it was a female pilot? What if it was 2 men that were the couple? A male flight attendant and a middle-aged Black woman was the CEO of the up-and-coming tech company. So these are assumptions that we make. Things pop into our heads. Sometimes they're value neutral. I mean, does it really make a difference if we thought the pilot was a woman or a man? Probably not. But unfortunately, as we see so much right now, there are a lot of assumptions that are made that can have very, very negative outcomes. But then the question is, why do we make these assumptions? Why did we think that? Maybe, I mean, you may be different, but why do people often think that the CEO is a man? Well, these assumptions are informed. They're templates that are built in our brains from the time we are young children. They're based on the families we were raised in, the area we grew up, who we were surrounded by, and very, very much of the time they're influenced by our culture, our media, the news we watch, the movies we watch, the songs on the radio. And those assumptions, those cultural templates can be biased. But what is bias? Well, it's a way our brains work. They just do this, right? We have tons of information that comes at us constantly, especially as teachers, like kindergarten teachers, my hardest year ever. What is it, 20,000 decisions you have to make? It's crazy. So these questions come, these decisions come, and you've got all this information. Our brains are experts at taking that information and categorizing it, taking shortcuts, figuring it out. And they're good at it, but they're also bad at it. So they come up with these unconscious shortcuts and they categorize them into where they belong, right? So hiking is one of my favorite things to do. So hiking along, talking with a friend, and there's a shape on the ground and it looks like a snake. So I jump back, maybe scream, not gonna admit to that. And I look back and it's a stick, right? Okay, well, I was being kept safe by this shortcut that my brain took, making an assumption based on past experiences, yes, and things I've seen on TV that said, oh, that looks like a snake, probably dangerous. Unfortunately, in society, when we're interacting with people, those decisions that our brain makes can lead to implicit bias, and implicit bias can have negative consequences. And oddly enough, that's bias, those decisions that we make, the thought that crosses our head may not even match up with our values of what is safe and what is not safe. And we may even be aware at some level that that decision that we make can have negative consequences, but the brain is just good at it and just does it. And then, so how does this manifest in the classroom? Well, we can make decisions as teachers that change what we expect, academic expectations of a student, the choices we make around discipline or interventions, or what a student's intentions might be when they maybe act out in class. And the problem is that this becomes even more prevalent when we're stressed. You know, the whole class is acting up. You know, it's going to be a full moon that night. There's a thunderstorm. Or if we're overwhelmed, things we've brought with us to school. Maybe we're hungry, just really tired. We react, and we react sometimes based on the emotions that we are feeling and the thoughts that cross our minds. And this can lead to a pretty devastating chain of consequences. And these numbers, these are statistics that are pulled. This is actual based on research, and this is a chain of consequences. Small decisions can lead to the next small decision that can lead to the things that happen here. They set these students on a path, and we don't intend it. Of course we don't. We're there to help. We're there to grow these students and to nurture them. And so these unconscious and unintentional decisions we make can have these outcomes. So now the question becomes, how do we break this chain? How do we stop that? Well, awareness is half the battle. Knowing that it's there, knowing that, okay, I had this thought. Yeah, that's a thought that crossed my mind, but where we come in, the technology we use, the courses that we teach, the way that we use virtual reality is to disrupt that at the point between the thought crossing your mind and you taking action. So it's a power, actually, it's a superpower to be able to notice your thoughts and feelings and then choose the actions that go with us. So I learned to drive in Atlanta. I don't know if any of you have been in Atlanta, but it's a crazy place to learn to drive. And you know, you have a moment when someone cuts you off in traffic and you're super angry and you're like, oh my gosh, I just could run into them because I'm so mad. But we don't, right? We stop, we breathe, we think, what am I actually gonna do? So we do this all the time. But sometimes we don't know to stop and breathe because it's unconscious. And that's the key component here. It's an unconscious bias. And so what we strive to help people with is making that unconscious thought, that bias, become something you're aware of. And then you can stop the action. And that's where virtual reality is the most incredible and powerful tool I've ever seen, because it is the only place in the world where you can literally be someone else, be somewhere else, and be so fully engaged in that other world that your reactions are completely natural. So when I first started building virtual reality, I tried out some programs, and there's one, I'm afraid of heights as well as snakes, where you stand on the edge of a mountain and you're supposed to step off. And I couldn't. It took me 5 minutes to like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And so you're so completely immersed in this virtual world. And so what we have done is created a classroom where there are triggers and there are stressors, and we give you tools to learn how to recognize the thoughts and disrupt the link between thought and action. And so teachers can engage in these classrooms and recognize in themselves times when their decisions might be less than equitable because of an unconscious bias and or an external factor that's causing them to react more quickly without thinking it through. And virtual reality can truly change attitudes and behaviors. And you know, that's not just us coming up with it. There's actually some really substantial evidence showing the power of VR. And we work with a lot of different groups, teachers, healthcare, etc. And there's clear evidence that it's 4 times faster when you're learning in VR, and the outcomes are incredible. I like to say, hey, if that pilot that greeted you on the airplane had learned how to fly the plane on a video, I think you might get off the plane. You want them to practice, you want them to do it. Well, they can't practice with a plane full of people, and we don't want to practice with a classroom full of students. And so virtual reality can put you there. And you can take the tools and you can practice with the tools, and you can fail and try again, and no one is negatively impacted, especially and including us as we learn, because again, this is a guilt-free, blame-free place where you explore times when maybe your decisions could have been different, and then you learn from that and apply that. And I'd like to show you guys a little video of kind of outlining what it is all that we do.
According to a 2018 report from the Government Accountability Office, students of color are 3 times more likely to be disciplined than their white peers for often similar behavior due to educator implicit bias. Implicit biases are formed because our brain creates cultural templates of the world that are conditioned by a lifetime of experiences, including the families we were raised in where we grew up, who surrounded us, and countless messages from the media. Shift is a training and technology company providing teachers the opportunity to safely examine and reflect on their bias and the effect that it has on students. Through virtual reality practice experience, remote personalized expert coaching, on-demand online courses, and digital tools and support systems.
Implicit bias isn't something I recognized in myself before. Having the opportunity to see it and to remedy it without student fallout has been great.
Go to www.shiftbias.com now.
So that's kind of a quick catchy outline, but here are the components of what we do. And this is a place where I'd like to spend a little more time. And then I've got another video that shows you what it actually looks like in virtual reality. But there are some key things when it comes to being able to disrupt bias and address it. And one of those components is that everyone within a system, whether it's a school, a district, a company, they all have to be on the same page. They all have to have been taking this. But if you talk about bringing in experts, there's turnover. How do we get everybody in the same place at the same time? So by having the online classes and the virtual reality, that's an independent study, it's affordable and accessible. And so it's asynchronous. We do have some customers who do this as a cohort, but that doesn't have to be that way. And that component means, yeah, you could be on your couch with a glass of wine taking some of the classes if that's, you know, if you wanted to take that time in the evening. It's also scalable. It's very easy to get it across an entire district. And then you can repeat. So, you know, if you have taken the courses and there's a piece you want to go back and take again, that's fine. If you're in the virtual reality classroom or one of our other scenarios and you really feel like you didn't quite catch it all and you wanted to go back and repeat it, that's all part of it. And then you get immediate feedback, not only from the online courses, but within the virtual reality itself. And of course, everything that we do is, you know, equity focused. It's not just a training, but the pieces that we put in, the methodology behind it is really focused on equity and inclusivity for learners and the outcomes that can be achieved in the classroom and in the schools. And I see that we have quite a few questions, but I did want to show you one last little video. And I was afraid I was going to talk really fast, and in fact I did. So we'll have lots of time for Q&A. But here's a video that we have of an infection prevention training that we've put together. And while our initial focus was around healthcare providers, we've had a lot of educators say, wow, we could see pieces of this being used in the classroom, because now we're all being faced with this world of how do we consider this virus as we try to resume anything that looks like a normal life. So this is a quick demonstration of what it looks like to actually be in one of our virtual reality scenarios. Oops, I did the wrong thing. Let me go back. There we go.
Scrub your hands for at least 20 seconds.
Hand hygiene is a basic skill healthcare providers know how to do. However, studies show healthcare workers, on average, wash their hands less than half of the times they should, and 95% of people don't follow all of the steps.
Arms through the sleeves all the way to the cuffs, and touch the fastening behind your neck. Ensure that it's tight at your waist. Bend and move around to ensure a good fit.
You will now enter a COVID-19 ward. Be sure to make eye contact. Compassion and empathy can only be communicated using your words and eyes. The pink color that you see in this COVID-19 ward represents the locations where the viral contamination is likely present when treating patients with this virus.
Now, we're going to check our patient's vital signs. We're going to start by tracking our patient's radial pulse manually with our index finger on the radial artery. There are several safe procedures for doffing PPE. The front and sleeves of your gown and the front of your mask are considered contaminated. Carefully remove the face shield or goggles, pulling upwards and away from the head. Dispose in the trash receptacle.
Okay, so now we'll open it up for questions. I'm gonna stop screen sharing so I can actually see those as well.
I don't see any typed into the chat box yet. Okay, are there education modules ready to go?
Yeah, so starting in October, we will have a full 8-week course on diversity, equity, and inclusion training. So, and I'm going to be distracted here reading through. Okay. Yes, and we'll send out links for the video. I know that this whole thing is being recorded, and then we're happy to also share out the links to those videos that I just showed.
And the infection prevention module that we just showed is available now. It was designed for healthcare workers, but we keep getting approached by educators and school districts because they want to make it available as well. And so that is a possibility now. And then as far as how much does it cost, it does depend on the number of users. Normally we sell to at a district level, so it depends. It's, you know, a bulk package, but it's priced very similarly to other training.
And with the virtual reality headsets, it really only takes 1 to 3 headsets in order to be able to train everyone in an entire school. And so we have a business model that makes having the headsets available for all teachers very, very barrier-free financially and logistically. And so right now we're actually taking a wait list for the course to the infection prevention is one that's just on, we have some training sites set up there. Some we're actually activating this week in Harlem, and then we have a few here in Oregon, and those VR labs are growing. But we are looking at ways that we can set up at the district level, working with tech potentially, so that teachers can take not only the infection prevention, but this full 8-week diversity, equity, and inclusion course that is set to launch in mid-October. And so the infection prevention, that would be at the end of this, and the slide presentation that you guys will get will come out. We'll have our email addresses, and we can get people on the wait list and organize how that can be done.
Another question here is, did you consult with people of color when creating this module?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we have a team of diverse people who are either contributing to the build of the content or overseeing it or giving feedback, so that we're getting a lot of different perspectives.
And I'm really glad you brought that up. That is something that we focus very, very much on, not only making sure that our content is informed by people with diverse lived experiences, but we also partner with people who have PhDs and many, many years experience in schools, as well as in hospitals, in training in the way that those particular groups need the training done. And so we're research-based, research-backed, and also we make sure that we are not looking at things through only our lens.
Another question here is, how would this work with students? I think that means, is this a training for students? If that's not what you mean by the question, let us know. But this is designed. This training is not actually designed for students.
Although there has been conversation here in our school districts in Bend to let the students take the infection prevention training, just so they can get a sense of, you know, what it's like. Not all, you know, we can leave it set in form where they're actually seeing the medical side of it, but throughout that 20-minute virtual reality scenario, you wash your hands 3 times. I know that that's a very important thing. But one thing that leads me to want to bring up is part of the way we set up our VR labs, whether they're in a school district, a hospital, a college, whatever, is we have a 58-page manual of guidance on how to do social distancing, disinfecting, and we partner with a company called Cleanbox Technology that has proven technology using UV rays that kills 99% of all the germs, bacteria, viruses, including COVID, on the headsets. So we make sure that the headsets aren't themselves a danger.
So we have an expansion from Lisa Milby on this question. How can I use this in my classroom? And then I think she's wanting clarity on, is this just for teachers to learn how to be less biased? And just hoping we understand your question properly. Right now, this program is not intended for students, but any adult that's interacting with students would benefit from this program.
Yeah, so building one for children would really, or students of any age, would really have a vastly different feel. Not, I mean, our philosophy remains the same, that they also would be on a journey of self-discovery, free of blame or judgment. But the VR scenarios would look different for them. The interactions, the takeaways, the things, the homework that we give between each of the online sessions would be very different. And that's not an area that we have chosen to focus on first. Partly because most of my last half of my career and all of Maggie's career have been focused on training adults, and that's where we have extensive expertise.
And to answer another question here, our trainings are done on the Oculus Quest. Yes, they are. That is the headset that we use. It's very easy for people to use. It's not plugged into something, you know, it doesn't need to be plugged into a computer or anything like that. And so it's fairly lightweight and simple and easy to just turn off and on. So we have chosen the Oculus Quest. In addition, some of our programs use the hand tracking feature, which is unique to the Quest.
Yeah, you can't wash your hands with the controllers. Looks like the...
Ladies, there were a couple of questions that popped up in the chat. Kathleen Prager had asked, how can one take the course about infection control?
Yeah, so right now the only way to take that course is at one of our VR labs. And so that would be something that we could definitely get in touch with. Kathleen could send us an email through one of the email addresses listed, and we could, you know, get her on a waiting list and see where there might be a VR lab close by. The cost for that, and it will have an hour-long online course that accompanies it, and it's about $99 to take that.
There are other ways to take the course if there are headsets available, or if you're just an individual, I don't know, maybe you have a headset, but you may or may not want to purchase one. And so depending on the number of users, it could be worthwhile to purchase a headset to access our program. So probably should talk for more details, because the answer to that question ranges greatly depending on the number of people that may need access to the program.
And putting together a VR lab in a school is super easy and quick. It takes just a few days, not very much of an investment. And then we are building out a library of courses. And so there'll be many, many more courses that can be added to the headsets.
We are sensitive to the fact that not everybody wants to purchase a headset or may not have the funds to do so. And so that's why we look at delivery mechanisms that make it more affordable by using either VR labs or working with districts that can make a few headsets available to a lot of people, as some examples.
And then I think we've kind of addressed the question of how do you take it if you don't have a headset. I mean, it's really designed the online course ties directly into the virtual reality. So unfortunately at this moment, you have to have access to a VR headset to take it. But the cost is around between 100 and 150, depending on how many people purchase. So group purchases have a whole lot cheaper than just an individual.
Yeah, so Jacqueline, if you were really interested, we would first see, okay, are you in the area of one of our VR labs? Or is there another way for you to access a headset? Unless, of course, you were wanting to purchase one on your own. But we try to find ways to minimize the cost of the hardware for people as much as possible.
Did we catch all of the questions that were in just the chat?
I believe so. I think there was one that maybe Tech would be able to answer over YouTube, which is if the training is available through Ulster BOCES, but unfortunately, Lisa, I am not positive. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that either, but we can always talk directly.
Yeah,
we're really good at getting creative, so.
And that question about
yeah, and we will
Yeah.
try to make it available through BOCES. So Lisa, we will be in touch.
And then to get on the wait list, so my email address is wendy@shiftbias.com, and Maggie's is Maggie. And after this, all the participants will get an email that has the slideshow, including the video links and our email addresses. And then you can also go to our website, that's shiftbias.com.
Okay. Oh. All right. And so I saw a last question from Ellen. How do we get on the wait list to get more info? But you did kind of mention that just now.
Email us.
Yes, exactly. Email Wendy and Maggie. And as I mentioned, we will also be sending information in the follow-up email.
And then just to clarify, Lisa asked, this looks like a good start of a great program. I just don't know how available it is right now. And it is set for release mid-October. And so that's why we're building a wait list for it.
And then as far as availability of getting headsets, we do work with schools and districts of any kind, any size. It's just really not designed to be an individual purchase.
Okay, we'll leave another minute for some questions to come in. But I did want to thank the both of you so much for this presentation. It was really wonderful and incredibly informative. And I had actually written to the two of you, but the rest of the attendees didn't get to see it. With the imagining activity you did, you got me 4 out of 4. You hit it exactly. So I could probably benefit from this training as well.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you were jotting them down. Thank you for doing the homework.
Of course.
Okay. Well, and I think we probably went way under time, but
that's okay. And
no one minds getting a few minutes back to go to the next.
Right. And if anyone thinks that their school, district, or BOCES wants to be a training site, reach out to tech. So you can reach out to us at events@tech.com. And last, I just wanted to remind everyone, we will be sending all this information out to you in the follow-up email. Wendy and Maggie, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was fun.
Thank you very much.
And for our audience, at 3 o'clock, we are going to be going live with Shelley Cameron from Copernicus for safe, effective deployment of student devices. So make sure you check that out. If you haven't registered for it yet, you can go to tech.com, our events page, and you'll see the Tech Virtual Summit 2 landing site. There's the registration link there. With that, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.